interesting. I think it's better to post out the YouTube link on social media because I think people will hit it directly as opposed to them sending them to our links for them to hit the YouTube link. That kind of doesn't make sense. Like if you send me someplace and you make me click twice, you're not going to get that extra click. Just me personally. It's that old age, Dave. I've got standards now.
You're getting standards. Yeah, those standards have been loosened for years by that bar on some of these teams has been loosened though. Right?
You know my standards are a winning season.
I know that's your stand. A winning season, improve.
That was my standard for I think every year, but Gase's first year.
Like no winning season. What does that mean?
Gase's first year messed it up. He ruined it for everybody. I created higher standards after that.
The goal is to make the playoffs for every team, right? And the goal is to take a step forward every year for every team. If you're out of the playoffs, to make the playoffs. If you made the playoffs, to win a game. If you win a game, contend for the title. You know, I mean, that's the way it goes in sports.
Generally, yeah. But, you know.
Unfortunately, we've been stuck on that first goal for the Dolphins, for every team but the Heat, basically.
Yeah. Look, Marlins made the playoffs. That's a surprise.
Yeah, they made and they won it. They won a playoff last year, right? That was a great season for them. So we'll see where it goes. Everybody else spent a lot of money in that division, so now nobody was impressed. All the experts, meaning people like me, who are picking them last in the division again. So.
All right, we're ready to go whenever you guys are ready. Am I? Hold on, wait a minute. I'm sitting.
Wait a second. I lost the script. There it is. Okay.
Don, make sure I'm centered because I'm moving the camera just. Okay, cool. All right. All right. Hold on 1 second. I gotta figure out how to lift up my computer here. Okay. So I can not be looking down so much. All right. Ready to go.
Yep, all set.
We're 1 week into free agency, and the Miami Dolphins haven't exactly undergone the massive overhaul to the roster that they had last season. But Chris Freer and Brian Flores have strategically fortified the team's depth in numerous areas and addressed positions that were kind of weak links and puts this team in the best position to select what I love to call BPA, best player available in next month's 2021 draft. This team hasn't spent wild and crazy like in past years, but they've addressed so many issues. We'll discuss all of that on X's and Omar. I am Omar Kelly. This is my colleague, Dave Hyde, Sentinel columnist. And let's do some inventory on what has been done, Dave. Miami added a speedster, one of the NFL's big play receivers, in Will Fuller the fifth. They traded Shaq Lawson for Benardrick McKinney, an inside linebacker. They re-signed today Landon Roberts, who suffered a knee injury in December. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he's going to be back for camp. They re-signed Vince Beagle. They signed Matt Skura, a center, to replace Ted Karras. They signed Jacoby Brissett to replace Ryan Fitzpatrick. And amongst the other moves, like adding Adam Butler and Justin Coleman and 2 linebackers, including Duke Riley, Dave, what about the free agent cycle do you like and what do you not like?
Well, look, I like what they did. Okay, Will Fuller would have been at the top of my list depending on which week you talk to me. Okay.
No, you had him on top of your list for 2 weeks here.
Right. And then, then if money wasn't an issue, you're going after Golladay. So it depends on what you want. But he fits what they need as far as being a speed, being a veteran, being a guy you can count. Now, the question, of course, there's always questions in free agency, and his question is injury, which folds right into the whole receiving corps question of who can you count on that's going to be in January. So that's the risk. But 1 year, and I was told beforehand they want to do 1 year deals, and you look what they've done. They've pretty much committed themselves to 1 year deals, and that's. You look at why they were waiting for the market to drop or to find the right guys, and now the Skura's 1 year deal, Fuller's a 1 year deal. So
But there's a lot of risk and danger to those 1 year deals. Not that I object to them, but they're very heavy on your cap. If you want you've got $35 million to sign players. You're basically taking up the majority of that $35 million on 3 players: Will Fuller, Jacoby Brissett, Matt Skura, and not even just that, but Benardrick McKinney. Everybody else is just minimum guys. You can add better players if you sign multi-year deals. But what I like about this is there's not huge financial. Well, there are huge financial commitments, but you're not married to them. We're dating for a season, and then we'll decide where we want to go from there. Miami isn't going steady with any of these free agents. And what I like is they targeted a lot of the second and third tier players that they liked, that fit their scheme early. They landed them, or we think they landed them. And now when the rest of the league is out there scurrying and trying to find players to replace Godchow or replace Karras, Miami's already got the ones that they want, or we think they got the ones that they want. So I like that. And as you know, Dave, even though I admire Steve Ross's big spending ways, I love the fact that the Dolphins have an owner who will give his management the credit card and says, charge what you want. Daddy's got it. This is fiscally responsible spending. It's not like what the Patriots did this season. That's like what the Dolphins would do every season. It's fiscally responsible spending, and we'll see where this leads us, especially in this new landscape with the new NFL TV deals.
Well, the TV deal, you don't have to be responsible. It's in 2 years, the salary cap's going to go from $180 million to the estimates are $230 million. So you could have, in some respects, the Patriots bought players at a discount this year. And first of all, there wasn't as much competition because some teams still had to get under the salary cap. Obviously, the pandemic, everybody was hit. Instead of going up, the salary cap went down. Some teams were caught. So there's less competition, and the fact that everybody knows the salary cap's going to jump
allegedly
appreciably.
The projections,
so that the Patriots, in a way, got players at a discount. My only question with the Dolphins is 1 year they do it one way, the next year they do it another way.
And the roster, hold on, Dave. The roster was gutted last year. So in fairness, they had to add players because they didn't have players.
Well, they had to add players. They didn't have to add all top-of-the-line players, though, like they did. They didn't have to set the cornerback market. They didn't have to. Now they got Van Noy on a 1 year deal for $15 million, but that's, that was double his market value probably.
Thank you.
So they overpaid.
Reaction to it last year, and the same thing with the Byron Jones, and the same thing with Shaq Lawson, and the same thing with Eric Flowers. They overspent. They spent too much money, and then next year they're going to be getting rid of all those players that they overspent on. Well, considering the cap is going to go up, maybe it won't be an overspend, but the only good deal that they signed last year was Emmanuel Ogbah, and that was a throw-in deal, 2 years, $15 million, and they really just got lucky.
Yeah, and the question not this year, they're going to have another big draft class. Okay, they had a big draft class last year. They got to, those are the roster spots they need. You only need so many. This year, they only needed so many free agents.
Yes.
My question would be a guy like David Andrews. Okay, why didn't they spend and get a quality center if that's now they're going to be in the draft for a center?
You got to look at where the areas of depth are in this draft, and there are so many centers from Creed Humphrey to Josh Myers to Landon Dickinson to the kid from I forget what his name is. Damn it.
There's like four centers.
Yeah, there's about 5 centers. I'm going to get a center in this draft. I'm going to get an inside linebacker in this draft. I'm definitely got to get an edge rusher, but we'll address that later. Let's get into our first question, which comes from OG Highway, who asks, with the free agent signing Miami has made, does this allow them to be flexible for the draft, allowing the board to fall to them?
I'm just curious, OG, old guys highway. What is that? Where we're going with this?
He's an OG, like you're the OG of the South Florida sports media, Dave.
I get it. I'm with OG highway. That's the whole goal. Every team's goal is to do signings in free agency and fit it to your roster so you're not desperate at a position. They're desperate at running back, though. I mean, this really didn't change that.
They're not desperate. They have need. They're desperate at defensive end, at edge center.
And they're desperate at pass rusher. Yeah, they need one. So those are, and depending on where Skura is, and he was, he's a starter for Baltimore, then he's benched by Baltimore. Depending on where he is, they need a center. But as you said, you can find a center in this draft. Pass rushers, I mean, it takes unless you're one of the Bosa brothers or a guy drafted in the top 5, typically it takes pass rushers 3 years to develop, 2-3 years to really get their career legs under them and understand what it takes to get.
OV took 2 years. Yeah, I'll give you about 2 years. What I like about what they've done in free agency is that they haven't left many areas of need. Now, they have left a couple. Like you said, running back is still an area you need to address. Center is probably an area you need to address unless Michael Dieter just comes out of nowhere and solidifies that spot. And definitely the edge player is an area you need to address. But what I like, and I've said this on X's and Omar's for the last 2 years, there's a high level of respect for Marvin Allen in this organization. He is the assistant general manager, and he has been a college expert, the top college evaluator, talent evaluator, top draft evaluator in the NFL, where the people who are the most respected in the league come to him for his guidance and for his thoughts on draft prospects. And this is his lane right now. This is his wheelhouse. And what makes it very difficult is the fact that they don't have the combine. They don't have teams giving their individual medicals to prospects. They don't have the 30 visits. They don't have the local prospect visit day. They don't have, there's so much you don't have about this draft because of the pandemic. And you have to rely on your relationships with these schools and with these coaches and with these individuals. And it's great when you've got an individual who's got those great connections.
Well, and we've seen where they didn't have connections, going back to, obviously, I mean, Deion Jordan comes to mind. So, okay, question number 2, Mike Smalls asked.
Don't forget Charles Harris. And that was a Chris Greer draft.
Mike Smalls asked, with all the new television money coming soon, why aren't the Dolphins restructuring contracts, making themselves better now, kicking some money down the road since the money is coming?
That you brought it up with these 1-year deals. They don't want huge financial commitments to players right now. They're kind of resetting themselves for the next 2 years, especially when this new TV money comes in. And if you push money down the road, it's like buying things on a credit card. The bill is going to be due, and it's just going to compound interest and be higher later down the road. I told you 5 ways that they could create cap space before free agency began, and I really didn't like many of those ways because it featured restructuring contracts. You've already got Byron Jones. He's a top guy that you can restructure and create cap space. You've already committed $45 million to Byron Jones over the next 3 years. And I can honestly tell you, I don't really see a $50 million a year cornerback. Maybe we see it this year coming, but I don't want to push my commitment further when I'm already overpaying for position.
Well, let's be fair. Byron Jones is the cornerback you bought. He's doing here what he did his previous years in Dallas. Okay, he's a good cover guy. He's not a game changer as far as turnovers, but you're just like Kyle Van Noy. They got exactly what they had to expect in him. I mean, you look at his career stats; they were the same as with the Dolphins. So his leader, he did a lot of things to help the team win. So the question becomes with them: what do you buy? What's the idea of what you're buying? Are you just okay? We're going to overspend for some players, and that seems to have been the philosophy last year, and it changed this year. So the Patriots were the ones who spent this year. The Jets spent not greatly, but they spent too. So
they had a horrible free agent cycle. They just bad deal after bad deal. And I'm not a big fan of what the Patriots did because I think the Patriots overspent on a lot of positions. Now, whether or not it makes them a better team, we'll see. I've always said the Patriots, and this is I'm sure going to go viral with the Patriots community because I've said it multiple years. They're not very good at drafting. They're not very good at free agency. What they have been good at is Tom Brady propping up a mediocre roster. We saw that last year.
Well, and what they're also good at is finding guys who fit their system.
That's true.
And a guy like Rob Ninkovich, the Dolphins had no use for. He goes there and he plays for a decade as a defensive end, and so they're very good at finding system fits.
Definitely. Kevin wants to know, what's the philosophy behind not signing free agents above 30? Oh, this is going to be right in Dave Hyde's wheelhouse. I think a few, including Melvin Ingram, can make an impact down the stretch. Dave, go ahead and disrespect the old guys.
You know, those guys are playing for their final contract. They're coming in, and they're coming to the finish. They see the finish line, and they got that final contract. So you have to be very, very careful with guys over 30 in football. Their bodies are falling apart. They realize by now it is a business. Some don't even like to play football, probably more than you would imagine.
Hi, Dave. Listen, I expected you to be disrespectful, but I didn't expect you to hit the mark as well as you have.
Let me. All that said, for the right contract and the right person, this is the point you might sign a guy over 30. And the question of Melvin Ingram, a Carlos Dunlap, Olivier Vernon.
I would love to see OV come home. And this is the team that he's grown up rooting for. He already played for him. He left for business. I think he fits this scheme. He had a good season last year. Carlos Dunlap, Olivier Vernon. I know Jadeveon Clowney is going to carry this thing out through probably August and then eventually decide where he signs. But yeah.
Where he signs. Like there's a line for Jadeveon Clowney right now. Is there?
He's always got offers. It's just whether or not he wants to take those offers.
Yes, there are offers, but are they what he wants? Their teams are buying right now. They're setting their bar on what they would offer guys.
Here's the important part about, and we bring up these pass rushers, the Melvin Ingram, Jadeveon Clowney, Carlos Dunlap, Olivier Vernon, and those are, except for Clowney, those are three important pass rushers for this reason. They all call Miami home. Like, this is home. This is where their families stay in the offseason. They go play elsewhere. And a lot of players would like to return and play home in their final days and final years, and they don't want to be away from their family. So I think it's a good fit for Dunlap and Olivier and Melvin Ingram. I believe he's going to maybe could sign with the Kansas City Chiefs. But you're right. The one thing you know about 30-year-olds is they realize what is the BS and what is real about football. And young coaches like Brian Flores, they're kind of fueled by the BS, and they make young players go through the BS, and they play these mind games. And the older players are like looking at you with a blank stare like, yeah, dude, this ain't important. This ain't real. This doesn't matter. And I think that's part of the reason why they have no interest in having 30-year-olds on the roster.
Well, and their games fall apart real quick. I mean, let's be honest. That's why. Okay.
Hey, are you saying Jason Taylor's game fell apart in the 30s?
I'm saying in general. Okay, there are always outliers or specific guys, especially depending on the position and how they take care of themselves, how professional they are. You just have to be careful, is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And I see why they've steered away from guys over 30. Look at the Patriots, who they signed. They didn't sign guys over 30. They didn't go that route this offseason. So, and teams don't want to for obvious reasons.
Yeah. It's important that you don't add 30-year-olds because really this team wants to compete in the next year or two when Tua's kind of got his experience, and a 30-year-old isn't going to help you then.
All right, time for Omar's favorite game of X's and Omar. On X's and Omar. True or false? You get the premise. You ask the question, we'll discuss its merit. Our first one comes from Michael Anderson. Vince Beagle will have a breakout year close to or better than Andrew Van Ginkel.
I think that's true. If you ask me to look at who is the superior player, both of them Wisconsin products, both of them have very similar skill sets. They do not have the same experience level, and I loved what Andrew Van Ginkel did last year. But Vince Beagle is a better all-around player. Now, he's probably not as good pass rushing or can't find the ball as well as Andrew Van Ginkel. But let's not pretend like Vince Beagle wasn't one of the better surprises of 2019.
Yeah, I agree. At the last half of the season, last 6 weeks, Vince Beagle stepped up his game, and you saw, okay, this is a guy who could really help you in the future. Then he unfortunately suffered that injury. But yeah, I agree. They have, whether he'll have a breakout year, you expect. He's in his third year now. He's coming off an injury. You expect him to help you in a way Andrew Van Ginkel did. And you see why Kyle Van Noy and his more expensive contract, he would have been $12.5 million this year for the Dolphins to resign. He got 2 years and 12.5 or 12 from the Patriots, I believe. But you see why they
where he was.
Why they went with Beagle Van Ginkel, same idea of a player. Jonas asks, Omar, true or false, the Dolphins pass rushers for the season are already on the roster?
I think that's a true statement. If you look at, yes, they definitely need an edge player, but Emmanuel Ogbah was a borderline top 5 pass rusher in the league last year. Now, you could say whatever you want about him getting pressure because of free rushers, but and the blitz packages, but he's a good pass rusher. And then Jerome Baker, underrated pass rusher, didn't blitz nearly enough. Created 6 sacks last season. I think he could have produced more. He's got great timing on the blitz. Problem is he's kind of pigeonholed in this defense as a coverage guy, and I'm sure they're not going to change that because he's entering a contract year. And the last thing they want is him to be like an 8-9 sack guy.
Yeah, I think that's true with an asterisk in there somewhere high. They're going to take a pass rusher. They need somebody to come in and develop and
edge player,
some youth.
Yeah, edge player. It's this 3-4 hybrid scheme is very intricate because it could be a defensive end like Emmanuel Ogbah, or it could be an outside linebacker like Vince Beagle, Andrew Van Ginkel. But yeah, they definitely need to address the edge player. Kevin James wants to know, Dolphins have a worse roster than they did this time last year, Dave.
Worst roster. Well, let's start here. The quarterback. You had Ryan Fitzpatrick last year, who, again, I'm just mystified I'm saying this. You look at his stats in the season he had. I'm going to be fascinated what he does in Washington, okay? If he plays like he did the last, 2 years, last year and a half, Washington is going to be better than most people. So we'll start there. Now, Tua will be better. I mean, year two is he's not going to be rehabbing all season, off season. He'll, he's got a year under his belt of learning. So, you know what? I don't know that they're worse. I don't know that yet they're appreciably better either. So,
you got to side.
I would say the question is, do they have a worse roster than this time last year? I will say no, they don't.
Well, I'm going to have to go with true because I do think they have a worse roster than they had this time last year. Fitzpatrick is a huge drop-off. Fitzpatrick to Jacoby Brissett, and that's a huge drop-off. Kyle Van Noy to Vince Beagle, that's a huge drop-off. Matt Hack to Michael Pallardy, huge drop-off. Yeah, they've improved on the inside linebacker with Bernardrick McKinney, but, other positions, they just haven't gotten better. I think Will Fuller's probably the only plus that you can really say. But then again, you also have to factor in the second-year jump, and Dolphins definitely need that second-year jump from this offensive line, young offensive line, and they need a second-year jump from Tua. If they can get those, then the drop-off from a roster standpoint will kind of be negated.
Well, Omar, if they don't get a second-year jump from Tua, then the whole rebuild is not going to work, okay? I mean, that's what it's all based on that, right? Everything's based on that.
Absolutely. No question about it.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back. San Surveyor asks, Jerome Baker is going to camp with a contract extension. True or false?
I'm going to go with false on this, not only just because the Dolphins really don't have any money left. I haven't seen the exact numbers because they haven't reported their contract yet, or the NFLPA hasn't reported them. But Jerome Baker is, to be conservative, an $8 million a year player, linebacker. Bernardrick McKinney's making 8. Jerome Baker kind of can make 8, 9, 10, depending on the kind of season that he has. And then let's get to not just Jerome Baker, but the other player that they have to really address extending, which is Mike Gesicki. What do they do with Mike Gesicki and the Patriots, who just blew out the tight end market, setting the price at $12 million a year? Are you, and this is a tough decision that you really have to really think about going into this draft. And we've had this conversation for years and years and years and years, Dave. Do you let good players that you've developed leave? Mike Gesicki's a good player. The Dolphins have developed him. Do you want to pay $12 million a year for him, Dave?
That's going to be an interesting question. And I don't think they're going to go into camp with a contract extension. No, I don't think they will go to camp with a contract extension. But some point this year is the deciding line. By midseason, you either have to extend them, or they're going to their agents are going to start sniffing free agency a little more.
I sniffing free agencies, but players get in their feelings, Dave. Look at Jarvis Landry's situation a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
The Dolphins made him play as the 3-time Pro Bowler, was like the 117th highest paid receiver in the league. That pissed him off. He begged the organization for a deal in December. Went directly to him without the agent. Give me a deal. He was playing with a broken back, and they basically lowballed him. And that led to his departure. It'll be
Or at the time, we were asking, is Jarvis Landry worth $15 million? And it sounds like what we're saying in a different manner with like a Jerome Baker and a Mike Gesicki. Are they worth? Look, that's going to be the market value. You got to start paying that if you're going to keep your team together. The whole idea was to get young players, draft them, get them together, have them grow up together into a full team, and that's the plan. So, you're going to start backing off as soon as it's going to cost a few dollars?
Do you sign Jerome Baker to a Kyle Van Noy 4-year, $50 million deal?
Oh, but you just said he's worth $8 million a year. So I mean,
in probably last year's market, or if he leads the team in tackles for a third straight year, produces 7 sacks, he's probably going to be in the $11 million a year realm. I mean, we're really looking at 10 plus for both players, 4 years, 5 years, $50 million, $25 million of it guaranteed. Are you signing Jerome Baker to 5 years, $50 million, 25 plus guaranteed? Same for Mike Gesicki, Dave.
Well, again, let's remember the salary cap's going up and up,
True.
up to $230 million. All these quarterbacks signing for $40 million a year with, stretched out over a period of years, their bonus and everything. Their cap numbers aren't anywhere close to that. And so, yeah, I'm signing. If Jerome Baker leads my team in tackles for a third straight year, yes, I want him back on my team.
All right, that's fair. You make a very valid point about the money going up, and when it happens, when it happens and I see it, and the cap goes up, then I'll say, okay, it's okay.
Well, remember they just 75 to 80%. The TV contract just went up. So the salary cap's going to follow, and the prediction is from 180 now to 2 years it'll be 230. Now you can sign as many players as you want for that gap, depending on how you want to structure the contracts. We all know that the salary cap is flexible. So, okay, Omar, true or false? Oscar asks, Will Fuller play more than 10 games?
Yeah, I think Will Fuller will play more than 10 games because he's making that important pay-for-play situation. Will Fuller he's already going to be suspended 1 game for a PED violation. And I believe, the knock on him has been his durability, and he wants to prove to teams that, hey, I could be durable for an entire season. I definitely think he's going to be playing. It's not like he's got nagging injuries like Devontae Parker. These have been some ACL injuries that he suffered. So sometimes these ACL injuries get in your past, and I think this is going to be a good season for him because he's the type of weapon that, 1, Tua needs, and 2, can open up this offense.
Yeah, now he's played 5 seasons, okay? He's only had one season where he's been under 10 games. Okay, so, I think that's you throw in the fact that he's on a 1-year deal and he's going to be, you would assume, highly motivated and have his body in complete shape.
Money's a great motivator, Dave.
What's that, Omar?
I said money's a great motivator.
Absolutely. Hungry soldiers, hungry writers, hungry players, we all do better. We all work a little harder, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No question. Thank you for my bonus, Sun Sentinel. Our next one comes from Chris, who asks, this is probably a question for Dave to ask. Go ahead, Dave.
All right, I'll set you up here, Omar. I know you want this one. Chris asked, Miami will break Omar's heart and pass on selecting Alabama tailback Najee Harris. True or false? Omar, how's your heart going to be on draft night?
If the Dolphins do not select Najee Harris, who I refer to as the tailback who shall not be named because I don't want to spend so much time talking him up.
You wrote a whole column about him last week after saying that. Quit that.
Listen, but there's a reason behind that.
You're done with saying you're not going to talk about
him. Here's the reason. They're up there flirting with Chris Carson and about possibly signing him Adams to the team. Chris Carson's a nice player. He's not going to make the Dolphins substantially better. Najee Harris will be the face of the Miami Dolphins, in my opinion. He is the can't-miss prospect of this draft. He is my bell cow for this offense. He is everything. There is no hole in his game. I am selecting him, hopefully with my 18th pick. Hopefully no team jumps ahead of me. But that 18th pick belongs to Najee Harris. And I usually would say that the Dolphins will break my heart, but they didn't break my heart last year with selecting Tua. I have confidence and belief that they can evaluate talent, and they see that Najee Harris is in the same league as Barkley, as Tennessee Titans Derrick Henry, as the Texans, not the Texans, but Dallas
Chubb.
Cowboys. What's
Cleveland's Nick Chubb. You always.
Ezekiel Elliott, the Nick Chubbs. He is going to be a top 5 back in the NFL, and this will end all of my run game issues.
You know what, Omar? I've come around. I really, you look at his size surprised me.
Oh,
He is Derrick Henry
oh,
big.
Derrick
Okay,
Henry
I mean,
with hands, a better pass catcher than Derrick Henry. Oh, it's beautiful. He's elegant. He runs. He's got great balance. He's got great hands. He gives you run after catch. There's no hole in this young man's game. And if he's not a Dolphins, this whole 2021 draft will be a huge disappointment to me.
yeah, I'm not going to go crazy over. I get why you're going crazy over him, but there's three running backs I'd be happy with: the North Carolina running back, the Clemson running back, or the Alabama running
Etienne
back.
is
I mean,
nice.
they're all have a
nice.
chance to be franchise
Yes.
running backs.
They all have a chance to be. Najee Harris will be.
Oh, my only question with all the Alabama things is they're all surrounded by great talent. They have incredible coaching, and you know how are they going to? I'm not sure Najee Harris can get much better, but you know
Nobody from Alabama is getting much better. Nobody. Derrick Henry is probably the only player who's ever left Alabama who got much better, and he was the Heisman winner.
All right, Omar, for your heart's sake, I hope they, with the 18th pick, that's awful high for me. That's awful high.
I know, because
but you know, they've set themselves up where they really need a running back, and they can't come out of it like last year where they thought they were going to take a running back or two at different times, and they were taken right out from under them. So they need to maybe overdraft here. Okay, question comes from Ryan. True or false? The Dolphins will draft a receiver in the first round.
That's a hard one for me. I feel like receiver, slot, rack receiver is probably the deepest position in this draft. There are about 12 that I can identify right now that I really want. Most of them I could take in the second day. While I am enamored with Devonta Smith, I'm really in love with Jalen Waddle. And I'm intrigued by Jamar Chase. I really don't know if the Dolphins need him, but now that they've added Will Fuller, it's not like they really need that rack receiver right now. Maybe they need to find somebody to replace Devontae Parker and Preston Williams. So Jamar Chase, I'd be fine with it. And if we're really going to stack up my board in terms of who is the top talents in this draft, I'm having Jamar Chase. He's my number 3 talent in this draft. So if I'm going to be committed to what I say, I'm going to select the 3rd best player in the draft. If I say a 3, so that would be Jamar Chase.
Yeah, and if you want to make over the playmakers and not get into trade scenarios, just straight simple, Jamar Chase at 3, and I almost bite my tongue on this. Najee Harris or at 18. I mean that you talk. Forget value of trades and all that. Just how much you would improve your team. That would be a big improvement for this team.
Drastic improvement.
Our final one comes from Tuttle Army, Omar. This is a better quarterback draft than last year. True or false?
False. And badly false. Just look at the cream of the crop last year, and we understand. Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent. He is the next Andrew Luck. He is just the can't-miss prospect. It's a sure thing. He's going to be an upper echelon quarterback in this league very early and will be good right away. But Kyle Wilson, Justin Fields, makes me a little nervous. Then you look at last year's class. Joe Burrow, Heisman Trophy winner, flawless quarterback, outperformed Trevor Lawrence. Tua, you know how I feel about Tua. Tua's closest thing to a god from a quarterback standpoint. Rookie year wasn't what we needed it to be, but Tua's accuracy, timing, precision, leadership, charisma, hopefully the arm improves. Those are all outstanding. And then your guy, Justin Herbert, had about as impressive a rookie years as anybody's had in the last 10 decades. I mean, last decade. So, you know, I don't think any of those 3 quarterbacks. I mean, Trevor Lawrence probably, but Kyle Wilson going to match what Tua or Justin Herbert did, Justin Fields, Maybe Justin Fields becomes the next Michael Vick. Who knows? But I'm not feeling this year's draft
Yeah,
class.
the question really hinges on what you think of Zach Wilson. I mean, that's really what it hinges on.
Cal Wilson, yeah.
Because Trevor Lawrence, okay,
you're right.
Zach knows what he's going to do in Jacksonville his first year, but everybody expects him to be, as you say, a generational talent. Zach Wilson is somebody people are fascinated in the scouting world. They're fascinated by Zach Wilson.
Yes.
Okay. And just as a year ago, nobody knew what to make completely of Justin Herbert. He got on the field and he showed you he's a great player. So I'm curious to see what with Zach Wilson if he becomes as good as Burrow or Herbert were as rookies, then yeah, it's as good a class. But remember a year ago at this time, Tua's hip was a question. Herbert was a question completely. So the only sure thing that people knew about was Joe Burrow, and that's sort of where we are right now with this class. Trevor Lawrence is a sure thing. Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Jones. And the interesting one of Mac Jones at Alabama, who put up the same numbers as Tua did. So I mean, it could be better, but so much to me, going after quarterbacks like throwing darts at the board, and so who wants to throw the dart at a Mac Jones? That's gonna or Zach Wilson with the second pick. Is he the second one to go as it looks like he will be?
Yeah, probably will be. I remember getting a text. It was a Saturday night. BYU was playing on television. And one of my league, an executive in the league was just like, watch Zach Wilson. Tell me what you think. And I watched the game. I forget who they were playing. I was like, holy crap, this dude is like legit. And very few people were talking about him. Then you got Trey Lance. And people got to understand, it's important for these quarterbacks to be talked up for the Dolphins. Because if the Dolphins are going to trade from 3, it's going to be a team pursuing the quarterback. And that's going to benefit the Dolphins because really they don't need a quarterback. They don't have to take a quarterback. So definitely you need people to say flowery things about Trey Lance. Maybe the Dolphins can trade 18 for a team trying to get Trey Lance. So it's definitely beneficial for them to talk up the quarterback. But I will not agree that this class is as good as last year's class. So the Dolphins have pledged their allegiance to Tua Tagovailoa, but sources claim Miami remains interested in Deshaun Watson if the Houston Texans make him available. This week, former starter Ryan Fitzpatrick gave Tua a glowing endorsement, saying that he's taken more heat than he deserves for being benched last season, and points out that Tua's accuracy, his leadership, his maturity are all reasons he will have a successful career in the NFL. Dave, are you buying Fitz's praise?
Well, I'm buying, who doesn't, understand Tua's maturity or his accuracy? Who doesn't understand that he's a guy, if his game's there, that he has all the leadership qualities you want? Now, when we ask in our business, when we ask a former teammate or a teammate who's friends with one guy, what do you expect him to say? When we ask a coach, do you like so-and-so's game? Or you ask a player, what do you think of Coach Flores? What do you think they're going to say? I mean, so while I agree with many of the things he said, at the same time, there are a lot of things that Tua needs to work on to get to the level that he was drafted to be, okay? And it's not a sure thing. I get that year 2, he's going to make a jump. He's going to have more help around him. So the question is where we are after year 2. And of course, now I wrote a column yesterday with all this stuff about Deshaun Watson, the sexual assault accusations, the civil suits. You cannot trade for him right now. You have to let all this play out. And I mean, that's just common sense, right? But you take that out of the equation, a big question. Of course you'd be interested in Deshaun Watson. He is there. He's at the finish line of an elite quarterback that you hope and pray and are building and molding that Tua could get to. So why, if you have the chance to get that thing, why wouldn't you take the shortcut and get it? So, it's interesting, Omar, the quarterback question. Russell Wilson, all his teams he listed as he would be traded to have quarterbacks right now. But next year, his salary number, cap number for Seattle, they would have taken a $30 million hit this year if they traded him in dead money. Goes down. We'll see where Deshaun Watson's at. This might play in some form into the Dolphins' hand. They get another year of Tua, and if he's great, they're on their way. All right, there's no looking back. And if he's not, then they have a decision. Maybe they have two elite quarterbacks on the market again. So we'll see.
Definitely. Deshaun Watson, 14 massage therapists as of Tuesday, filed civil suits alleging that the Houston Texans quarterback is a serial predator and had inappropriate contact with them. Yes, that's a very murky, troubling, difficult issue to wade through, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst nightmare. But as we should always remind people when we're talking about the legal realm of things, America is a country that is built on the judicial system saying we are innocent until proven guilty. And right now, all we're seeing is trial by media, trial by court of public opinion. Hell, there hasn't been reports made to police. And this is all troubling, all traumatic.
Omar, they're up to 17 now charging. So you can argue either way. The best thing to do right now is sit back,
stay out of it,
let it play out. Let the legal process play out.
Even though you can get a quarterback at a discount, Dave.
No, you can't do that. You can't get a guy who would be the face of the franchise. I couldn't anyways, and I would not be in favor of a guy with this cloud hanging over him. This cloud has to be resolved one way or the other, and you need to have some resolution so you then can make a decision on just what you're getting. So yeah, you could get him for a cheap price, maybe if Houston's going to trade him, which we don't even know. But I'm just sitting back and watching this play out now.
Definitely. If I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm paying close attention to who is distancing themselves from me and who is aligning themselves to me and who's showing support. I am puzzled that this many people are basically coming out and making these claims, and they're all massage therapists. I haven't seen anything like this ever before, and it'll be interesting to see what the outcome of it will be.
One of the many issues in this and questions I have is, okay, Dan Marino got a massage a week. Zach Thomas, Jason, they had the same masseuse.
Yeah, I thought, yeah. How do you need 14, 20 massage therapists? Like, do you just need variety? What is going on here?
Yeah, so there's so many questions about this that just sit back and let it play itself out. That's what I would do if I'm the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Our next question comes from Chief Omar. With the lawsuit Watson is facing, should the Dolphins still be interested? I think I addressed that. Why don't you have your say?
No, I stand by what you're saying. I think no matter what, because Houston was holding on to him, you let the process play itself out. And if I go past this draft with Tua as my quarterback, Tua is going to play this season. So, I mean, really, the Houston Texans have till 6 p.m. The day of the draft, April 29th, to make an offer, accept an offer, or otherwise he's yours.
Well, the other interesting component of this is if you're the Dolphins, planning for keeping options open, okay? Keeping all your options open, as you should. Trading down, get you another number one pick for next year when, as I mentioned, Russell Wilson and Watson could be available. I mean, and again, maybe Tua is your guy by then. Maybe he's proved, all the questions from his rookie year are gone. He's got better talent. He takes a step forward. He's your guy. and you ride that out for the next 15 years. Or maybe not. The question is keeping options open, and trading down would in some form allow those options to be kept open.
Definitely. Let me ask you a question, Dave. If a team in the top 15 offers you their first this year and next year's first, are you trading from 3?
Top 15, no. It'd have to be the top 10, and I'd want to look at that team to see, do they have the chance of finishing in the top 10 again next year? Okay, where's Carolina at as a building? Where's Denver at? Those are the 2 teams being talked about a lot. I would start gauging how good those teams are, where I would, look at who they're playing, look at and gauge, okay, which one's going to be worse, and that'd be the team obviously you would want to deal with if their offers are generally the same.
Definitely.
Okay.
No, Malovo has an important question. If the Dolphins draft Kyle Pitts, would you trade Mike Gesicki or wait to lose him next year in free agency? Because I don't think he's worth $12 million a year. That's not me speaking, even though I said that.
Wow, that is a question with a lot of hypotheticals, and even I, who I don't steer away from hypotheticals, it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Look. The idea of drafting the Florida tight end Pitts is fascinating because he can do a lot of things. He's a big, different 6'6", different weapon. He blocks, Omar. Look at some of the tape of him blocking. He can block. Now the question is, would you really want to use him on that when you see what he can do receiving? Trading Gesicki. That gets down to what kind of you're going to run, okay? And you have 2 6'6" guys who are receiving tight ends. Can you make that work? Usually when you have 2 tight ends, a 2 tight end offense, one of them is a superior blocker, okay? In this case, while Pitts can block, his great talent's receiving. So I'd have to, you have a year, if you draft Pitts, you have a year to see what that offense would look like. You don't need to make the decision now. There's no need to make the decision now.
Let's keep this in mind, and I think Dolphin fans are losing perspective on this situation. And yes, Mike Gesicki's contract or upcoming contract demands or requests or market is a factor in this decision, and it might encourage me to take a tight end. I think you can do well with Brevin Jordan from the University of Miami, and you don't have to use a first-round pick on him. However, I do believe that Kyle Pitts is one of the 5 probably generational talents in this draft. The 5 guys that I say, hey, they're going to walk away probably Pro Bowlers in this draft. So I have to consider it. If I'm sticking with a top 5 selection or I have a top 10 selection, I definitely have to consider it. He is a matchup weapon that kind of opens a field for everybody else and creates those mismatches that make it difficult for defenses to play you. So you have to consider it. However, I'm not comfortable selecting him as the highest running back, highest tight end ever drafted in draft history. I just don't see that. And I also have other interests. O.J. Howard from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he should be on the trade block right now. And I would strongly consider, even though he's going to need a new contract, I'd strongly consider offering up a 3rd-round pick for O.J. Howard because I do believe that O.J. Howard is a difference-making tight end. I watched him basically convince Minka Fitzpatrick that he doesn't want to be a Miami Dolphin anymore. He destroyed him all of practice during the joint practices that Miami had with Tampa Bay, and O.J. Howard basically had Minka's mama calling me out on Twitter, explaining that he's not playing well because he's not playing the right position. Minka was adamant about playing Bobby McCain's position, which, lo and behold, he is a Pro Bowl talent at Bobby McCain's position, and he didn't want to be here anymore. And you know who all did that? O.J. Howard. So I still believe in O.J. Howard, who doesn't really have a role in Tampa because Tom Brady's got his guys. But that doesn't mean that O.J. Howard, who I believe is a more complete tight end, and that's what I would want, a more complete tight end.
Okay, our final question comes from Bo Jangles. Now that Will Fuller has been added to the offense, what draft picks? and we've gone through them all. Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith should be added to complement this offense.
Well, let's start with areas of need, and we addressed this earlier. Center, edge player, and running back. You know what I'm doing with 18 regarding running back, so let's move on from that. Then we go to the edge players. There are none that are worthy of a top 10 selection. That includes Greg Rousseau from the University of Miami. I initially thought that maybe he'd be a top 10 talent. Then I just really went over the film a lot last night, and there are a lot of holes in his game. He's not where he needs to be. And that was from a junior season. We never got to see him build on that this season. So I'm not comfortable selecting him early. I'm not even sure I'm comfortable selecting him at 18. So that leaves me walking away from this draft, if I have the number 3 pick, making sure and ensuring that I select a top 5 talent in this draft. To me, the top 5 talents: Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, Penei Sewell, Slater, the offensive lineman from Northwestern. Then you got Zach Collins. Well, I'm not selecting the offensive line. I don't know if I'm selecting the offensive line. I'm going with Jamar Chase because it's the surest of the sure things. I'm going to resist.
You can't decide on the offensive line.
The urge, Dave, to select an offensive lineman.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't need the best offensive line in football to win a Super Bowl. I need a good offensive line. Okay.
I don't have one yet, though.
Well, you better. Again, you're counting on your year 2 guys to develop into good pros, and that's a legitimate hope for this team, right? That's more than legitimate. It better happen.
What happens if it doesn't happen?
It's built on.
What happens if it doesn't happen?
Playmakers. And
what happens if it doesn't happen?
Well, then your whole rebuild is going to collapse.
So you don't want to do something that will ensure that your whole rebuild doesn't collapse.
Yeah, then you're throwing too many resources at one idea. Okay, when you have great needs elsewhere. So, but
I don't think Penei Sewell is a top 5 talent in this draft. I think he's a top 10 player. I like Slater just as much, probably even more than I like Sewell. But you know, Dolphins can play this a number of ways, and in fact, I think the best fit for this team is probably Jalen Waddle.
Well, that's a new one. You know, there's a lot of talent, offensive playmaking talent. There's a lot of just needs sitting there for them, and it's this is what these guys wake up at 3 a.m. thinking about. Okay. Which player, but they're all there. That talent is sitting there. It's a good draft for them.
It is. Yeah, it's a good draft for them. Not necessarily a good draft, but it is a good draft for them. Well, thank you for watching X's and Omar. It brought to you by the Sun Sentinel. We are here every Wednesday. Today we started at 11:30, but we're usually here at noon. We will be back next week. More free agency talk, more draft talk. Your questions, if you want to ask them, use hashtag X's and Omar. And we will actually also use those questions on the Dolphins Q&A from the Sun Sentinel, which you can find on the Dolphins page. X's and Omar can be found on all podcast streaming sites. So just look for X's and Omar and get your Dolphins fix. Dave, appreciate you being here. Thank you for the show. See you next week, Wednesday.
All right, see you.